Okay, guys, so here's how we will do this tiny furniture situation, okay? We have a lot of different pieces here, and if you look at it, you can see that what's going on is we have different um, pieces of furniture that are made flat in this drawing, okay? That's then been printed out for you. So the trick is going to be to very carefully cut out the pieces without cutting lines that you need to be able to fold on, okay? So I'm going to start and I'm going to do one of these little chairs, okay? And the first thing I'm going to do, just to like make it a little easier for you to see, is I'm going to just separate this chair from the other chairs and desks and things, okay? I'm just going to make it a separate little piece. So now I'm just working with this chair, okay? The first thing I'm going to do after that is I'm going to just kind of freehand cut out the one chair from the other. Okay, so now I got that. Great. And I'm going to go in. Can you see this? I hope you can, but let's do a little lighting adjustment. Turned on some extra light, so hopefully you can see it. I can actually zoom my camera in too. Ooh, oh, much better. All right, I zoomed my camera in, so now everything is super close. Look at my giant fingers. Okay, so what we're gonna do is very carefully, we're gonna cut out all of these lines, and you can do this freehand if you're brave, or you can use your ruler for any straight lines that you might run into. So first we're gonna just cut out the outside edges, okay? And I'm doing it kind of in little bits and parts, right? So that I'm making it as easy as possible to make it perfectly clean in my final cut, okay? So let's just do this whole chair, okay? Eventually you'd probably want to cut out these holes in between the slats, but I'm not going to do that for today, for this demo, because I don't want this demo to take 25 minutes. All right, so I'm very carefully cutting it out with a nice sharp blade so that we can get this as clean as possible. Okay, this is a nice straight line, so that's a place I might use my ruler as a guide to make sure I get that nice and straight all the way across. Okay. And then I'm going to cut out this leg. And then again, for the purposes of this, I'm not going to cut out all of those openings, but you would cut out the openings in between, right? Because that would be open in this chair, right? If you're looking at a wooden chair, it's not solid, it's open between all of those parts, okay? So I'm just popping him out. Okay, so now I have this chair, right? And he's gonna fold up and become beautiful tiny chair, all right? The way we're gonna achieve that is, first, we're gonna score the lines that where it would fold, okay? So we're gonna just lightly cut. Don't go all the way through, be really gentle. In between each of these lines so that it will fold neatly, okay? Then you're going to fold it all the way back on each of those folds. And now it has become the tiny bottom of the chair part, right? So if you take some glue, you can now glue all of those tiny legs together and glue it to the top of the chair, to the seat, okay? So then there's one more place that we need to fold, right? Because at this point it still doesn't look like a chair. And that is this seat back. So the thing about the seat back is, right, if you slice here on the front of it, then the paper's going to want to fold down, and that's not the way the back of the chair works. So we're going to actually turn it over to the back side of this piece, okay? Take our ruler and make a line at the bottom of the curvy part of the chair using the ruler, and then score on the bottom. right? So you can kind of see that little tiny score line. That's going to make the back of the chair fold up. So now, it's a tiny chair. Look at that, okay? In order to make it permanently a tiny chair, right, you need a little puddle of your glue, of your tacky glue. This is like for sure a time to use your toothpicks, right? So remember we gave you toothpicks in your scenic materials kit. One of the materials was a toothpick, okay? So take your toothpick, take your glue, make a little puddle, okay? This is after you've cut out all the parts, and use your glue toothpick to put just the tiniest bit of glue where you need it, like here. Okay, so now that's a teeny, teeny, teeny bit of glue that I can use to stick this together, and I'll do the same thing on the bottom of the chair, right? So I'll just take my glue toothpick, and I'll just put a tiny, tiny bit of glue along here, so that I don't get any glops. I just get just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit, right? So then my chair folds down, and it's good to go, okay? You can, if you want to, so you'll notice, right, that the bottom, that the seats kind of hang over in the back. So if you wanted to, you could cut here instead of folding, right, in order to make the little box under the chair sit in the middle of the seat. That works too, okay? So if it bugs you that the front of the seat doesn't overlap the front of the chair the way it would in real life, then that's the way you fix that, right? You just cut here, and you build the little box part of the chair, and then you build the little top part on top of it, okay? Ta-da, Isa tiny chair. That's how almost all of the furniture on that furniture sheet is laid out. So let me zoom back out again. Let's get the furniture sheet, and let's move my glue puddle, my toothpick, away. So when you look at the furniture sheet, it's almost all laid out this way, right? So for this desk, for example, right, you would carefully score along these lines, and then you would be able to glue those sides together, right? I'd cut this middle part out, right? And then you need to cut out that gap in between, but these are all solid, so you can just leave them solid, right? If you're building this little sofa, right, the silly sofa, you would be cutting here, scoring here, right, scoring there, maybe on the back to make those little arms fold up into the middle, okay? And then down here, these leg parts will all fold down and sit underneath the sofa, okay? Same with this table situation, right? The other kinds of things that you might want to make, maybe you want to make a more three-dimensional sofa or like a puffy chair. You can do that using your foam core pieces. So if you have a scrap piece of foam core from building your model box, right, like this, you can cut it into the size of a sofa by using your scale rule and measuring maybe a sofa in your house, right? So for example, something I like to do, right, is I'll cut out the piece of foam core that's the size of my couch cushions, right? So maybe that's as big as my sofa is across. And I will take off the top layer of the paper. Usually if you slice into it like this with your X-Acto knife, you can just pull the paper right off the top, okay? Once you've done that, so you've gotten the paper off, now you have a blank piece of foam that you can carve into the shape of sofa cushions, right? So I would be like, okay, there's 3 cushions on my sofa, so I'm gonna just divide this up like this. I'm going to take the edges down using my knife, do some art, make some carving of this foam so that it looks nice. And now it's a fluffy sofa, okay? I did this freehand because I know how big things are in scale. You'll probably want to measure it, right? Sketch it out first so that you know you're making it the right size. But now I have the seat cushions of the sofa, and I can kind of slant my knife and pull a little wedge out in between so that it looks like maybe there's a little gap in between the individual cushions of my sofa, okay? Then what I would probably do is just take another little piece of foam core, glue that underneath the sofa piece that I've made to make it a little taller, okay? So now it's like a weird ottoman. The way you can tell how big things are in scale, a good reference, is the tiny person that we sent to you, right? So take your tiny person and see if it looks like he could sit comfortably on your tiny sofa, right? So this is about the right height for him because that's where his knees are, right? And use that to guide your work in scale. You can also take your tiny person, put a little glue on his feet, and glue him to a scrap piece of Bristol board so that he can stand up more easily inside your model, okay? So this is a like foam carvy kind of approach to making furniture. The other thing you might want to do, and you might want to do this with your plain old Bristol that doesn't have anything printed on it, you can use that to do stuff like making a table, right? I also gave you a couple, like if you wanted a round table, for example, I gave you some little round wood that you could use as that table. And I gave you the toothpicks, right? So these toothpicks are especially cool because if you look at the bottom of them, right, they have this like fancy edge going on, okay? So you can use that kind of fancy shape of your toothpick there to create what looks like a spindly leg on a table, for example, right? So then you would just measure how tall your table is supposed to be, cut the toothpick off at the right spot for it to be the leg, and then you can use that as like the leg under the table, right? And glue those two things together to make a round table. You can use a piece of Bristol board as a tabletop if you want it to be a different shape, okay? All of those things are also tiny furniture options, okay? So that is your basic tiny furniture process, and I will upload this for you, and if you have other specific questions, reach out to me and I'll help you out. Thank you.